Hello there, SpongeBob fans. It's been a little while. What is up, you guys? It is Zach, and welcome to this fun video all about the new SpongeBob game that was just announced on Friday called Spongebob Squarepants Titans of the Tide. We're going to be diving into this game today, talking about what the game is all about, as well as kind of saying what about this game differentiates itself from the Cosmic Shake, because at first glance, it looks very similar, but I promise you, beneath the surface, there's actually a lot more different than you may initially think. So, if you want to watch more spongy goodness, definitely make sure to click that subscribe button, and of course, click that notification bell so you can be notified of whenever I upload videos. And without any further ado, you guys, let's get into all the main details of Spongebob Squarepants Titans of the Tide. The story of this game is relatively simple, though we don't have the full grasp of the story, so bear with me if these details end up being a little inaccurate as we learn more about the game. From what we know, King Neptune and the Flying Dutchman are having some sort of feud about who is the actual leader and titan of the Seven Seas. I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't want to get in either of their way, as we see that the world ends up getting completely destroyed after they start fighting. Both of their powers come together and ends up with Bikini Bottom going into ruins, and now, for some reason, it is up to SpongeBob and Patrick to end up saving the world. I don't really know what exactly they can do to save the world, but seemingly they are the only ones that can stop their feud. So now SpongeBob and Patrick have to stop the feud, save Bikini Bottom, and get things back in order. On the surface, this story seems relatively simple, but again, depending on what we learn in the future, there may be more details about the story that come out that'll help give us a little more context as to what's going on, aka why the Flying Dutchman and King Neptune are fighting even in the first place. So we'll have to wait to hear a little bit more about the story. Unlike the Cosmic Shake, where you can only play as SpongeBob, this game also allows you to play as Patrick. Now, as to how you do that, both SpongeBob and Patrick are wearing their BFF rings. You know, they're best friends forever, ring. And when they touch, they're able to switch between ghostly and human forms. Well, not human form, you know what I mean. They can do this and swap instantaneously rather than having to go to bus stops and stuff like in games from the past. And this seamless swap between the two characters is reflected in some of the platforming that we actually see in the trailer, as it seems like switching between the two characters is the key to actually navigating some of the platforming challenges that this game seems to offer. As for each character's individual moves, let's start off with SpongeBob. SpongeBob's moveset is pretty similar to what it was in the Cosmic Shake. He still has his bubble throw, he still has the homing kick ability, and even the surfboard ability that it also looks like Patrick can utilize as well. On top of things that he's always been able to do, like sliding and the boulder running thing that we saw in the Cosmic Shake. The real interesting thing here is Patrick and Patrick's abilities. Now, Patrick does not take many abilities that he had in the original Battle for Bikini Bottom game, besides he does have his throwing ability back. There are two more moves that we see of Patrick that he did not have in the previous games. Like, for example, he can burrow underground. As to what purpose this will serve, I'm not quite sure yet. Maybe he'll have to get under fences or under barriers, or maybe it'll be a way to evade certain enemies. I'm not sure. But his other move is this kind of grappling thing where you can grab on the targets and pull them towards you, like in this shot, for instance, where he is pulling out a bridge. While the moves seem simple at first glance, it seems like the game is going to rely on you switching between SpongeBob and Patrick and knowing when to switch between them to pull off certain moves, as obviously the moves are character specific, so you might have to use both of them in a single segment and just kind of know when to switch them out. It's going to be pretty intricate and a little more complicated than Cosmic Shake, it seems. Overall, it's seeming like this is going to be a very dynamic and unique moveset, and I'm very excited to actually see how it looks in action. Now, the levels are a little more vague in terms of what we actually know. The only two levels that we have confirmed are Neptune's Palace and Mount Bikini. I'll be honest, I had no clue what Mount Bikini was. I was like, this location doesn't sound familiar for me, but I did some research, and apparently it's from a Season 8 episode of SpongeBob. So it's cool to see that they are still pulling from old and new episodes in terms of the things they're referencing. but we do get to see a bit of Neptune's palace from some of the bits of the trailer, and I must say it looks pretty good. Going into speculation territory a little bit, there's a few other familiar locations that we also do get to see. It seems like Jellyfish Fields is going to return, but this time with a snowy, Christmas-like variant. I'm pretty interested to see how that plays out, and I really hope that they do a kind of festive edition of the Jellyfish Fields theme from Battle for Bikini Bottom. That would be really, really sick. We get a look at what I'm assuming is Goo Lagoon, and what's interesting about it is we actually see it at two different points in the day. One when it's just midday, and then the other when the sun is either setting or rising. So I'm hoping there's going to be some dynamic day and night mechanic in the game. I think that would be really interesting to see them do. And then we also get to see what looks like the Flying Dutchman's graveyard, and I feel like that's very interesting. And it makes sense if King Neptune's going to get a level, it only makes sense that the Flying Dutchman gets one as well. There's a few other shots that look like they could be parts of levels, like we see what looks like Bikini Bottom in this kind of weird state. There's some theorizing that this might be the hub world. I'm personally leaning that this is a towards the end of the game thing where you're going through some sort of dream sequence or some sort of sequence where Bikini Bottom's all broken up. That's what I kind of think. But more interestingly, there's also this shot of what looks like a level that's on top of a floating Krabby Patty. And we actually also see this floating Krabby Patty in Goo Lagoon as well as outside of the Krusty Krab. This makes me think that the level structure of this game is going to be a little more linear than something like Battle for Bikini Bottom or the Cosmic Shake. Meaning that I'm not sure we're going to get a hub world at all. I feel like it's going to be more of a linear progression kind of game rather than completing a level, going exploring the hub world and, you know, doing stuff like that. I think it's going to be more like the Spongebob Squarepants movie game where you're just going from level to level and continuing on. And I'm figuring that you use this Krabby Patty balloon thing as a kind of way to travel between the levels. Kind of like what we saw with games like Super Mario Odyssey. And this kind of tracks because when you have levels like King Neptune's Palace, which I'm pretty sure isn't actually in Bikini Bottom, it makes sense for them to not rely on Bikini Bottom as a hub, so I'm thinking that that's going to end up being the case. I'm really interested to see how this all works out in terms of structure, how linear it's going to be, how much freedom you have, how open the world is, but we're going to have to wait and see. Moving on to the enemies and the bosses of this game, there's not as much to work with, but bear with me. Enemies, I really only saw one kind of enemy. I could have missed something, so forgive me, but I saw this Mr. Krabs ghostly-like enemy. I do believe that a lot of the enemies you're going to fight in this game are going to be ghosts, which, as a Luigi's Mansion fan, is pretty freaking exciting. And the Mr. Krabs ghost-looking enemy looks pretty cool. We don't really get to see him in action, but I'm assuming it's going to be kind of the secondary strong enemy. And then in terms of bosses, we know a little bit more. We know that we're going to end up fighting Hibernation Sandy at some point, which is really interesting, because Sandy doesn't show up at all in this trailer. She's the one character that's kind of completely missing, so I'm excited to get to fight her Hibernation form. And we have this really cool Jack-in-the-Box looking Flying Dutchman. At first I thought it was a robot, which I thought was going to be a callback to Battle for Bikini Bottom, but it's more so just kind of its own unique thing, and I really like how it looks. It does look like it is kind of a callback to the original Battle for Bikini Bottom, where he's kind of snorting out fire. That's kind of how he's attacking you in this boss fight. I really enjoy it. It's pretty cool. And then, of course, the website says that you'll also end up fighting both King Neptune and the Flying Dutchman themselves. So that'll be pretty interesting. I'm assuming you have to stop them before they get too crazy. We'll have to wait and see a little more information about how it's like to actually fight them. I'm assuming they're going to be kind of endgame bosses. Alright, so this category is going to have a bunch of information. Basically, how this game is going to launch. Firstly, what platforms is this game coming out on? It is only coming out on current gen platforms, nothing from last gen, and that includes the Nintendo Switch. So we're only going to be getting this game on PC, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and the Nintendo Switch 2. Keep in mind that the physical version of the Nintendo Switch 2 game only comes on a key card, so there's no actual true physical version of this game, which kind of sucks. But nonetheless, none of the past gen consoles are going to get it, and I've seen people complaining, specifically people who don't have a Switch 2 yet over a Switch 1. But think of it like this. I feel like this game is going to benefit from not being held back from the previous generation consoles. We know that those past 2 SpongeBob games kind of struggled on the Switch 1, so this game, seeming bigger in scope and having a lot more going on, I feel like would have had a really rough time on the Switch 1. So I'm glad that Purple Lamp are prioritizing making this game as polished as it can be without having to worry about doing a inferior version for another platform. And I don't know, I think it is a win. As much as it sucks for people who don't have a Switch 2 yet, it's going to be better for it, so I personally do not mind. As for pricing, this is where things get a little more interesting because there's a couple different things. There is a standard edition, there's a digital deluxe edition, and then there's a collector's edition. The standard edition for getting the base game, and just the base game, is $40, $39.99 plus any applicable taxes. For a new game that looks as good as it does, I think this is a pretty fair price to pay. Now, there is a digital deluxe edition that comes with some bonus DLC that is going to release later down the line, which we will talk about in a bit. That will cost you $54.99 or $55 plus applicable taxes. And the bonuses that this contains are 2 DLC packs, and I'm assuming they're going to be $10 each because of the fact that the bundle is $15 more than the base edition. So I'm assuming you can get both DLCs for $10 each, and if you get them bundled with the game, you save $5. That's my personal guess, as it doesn't seem at the time of recording that the price is out for this just yet. And then you have the Collector's Edition, which I'll talk about all the contents of the Collector's Edition in a little bit, but this seems to be about $100. Now, again, this price isn't out yet. They haven't actually, at least at the time of recording, stated a North American price. So this is a guess based on exchange rates between currencies. So I'm assuming it's going to be about $100. So there's lots of options of what edition you could pick up. And as of right now, it looks like you can pick up the digital editions of the game in whatever digital shop, for whatever platform. But it looks like the physical versions aren't available to pre-order yet, again, as of recording. So we'll have to wait a little bit more for more accurate pricing details on those. I also wanted to quickly plug in the languages that are going to be available for this game because of the fact that a lot of people are actually really curious about this. This is actually a big point of conversation with the other SpongeBob games, so I thought it would be important to note here. Here is the list of all the different languages that are supported for Spongebob SquarePants Titans of the Tide. It looks like there's a lot of support in terms of the text, but unfortunately, the voices that we'll be able to hear, there's a very limited amount of languages that support that. Looks like you'll only be able to hear the English, French, German, and Japanese voices of the SpongeBob cast. Which, by the way, they did confirm that the original cast from the shows are going to be here to film their lines for the game. I know the languages are a really big deal for a lot of people, so I did want to point this out for people who might not speak any of the 4 languages that are supported. Like, I'm shocked there's no Spanish version, there's no, Chinese version, it's just those 4 languages. So, that's kind of a yikes, but, I mean, as long as you have the text there, so you at least know what they're saying, then I guess that's at least as good as it can be. Lastly, let's talk about some of the extras that you can get for this game, whether it be the DLC, as well as the Collector's Edition. Let's start with the Collector's Edition, actually. That Collector's Edition contains a copy of the game, a Season Pass which contains the 2 DLCs that I'll talk about in a little bit, a costume pack that I believe is also a pre-order bonus, a steelbook, a sew-on patch of the Flying Dutchman, 5 lenticular cards, and a golden spatula keychain. Like I said earlier, I believe that this bundle is going to be about $100, which I don't think is as egregious as some of the previous collector's editions, but it still is definitely on the pricier end, so keep that in mind if you want to get it. I might get it just because I really like the way that it looks, but we'll have to wait and see. But like I said, the collector's edition also contains the Season Pass, which has 2 DLC packs. The 2 DLC packs are one based off of Plankton and one based off of the new SpongeBob movie that's coming out, The Search for Squarepants. Now, not much information has been given for the Search for Squarepants DLC, but there is a little bit of information about the Plankton DLC. There's going to be some new levels that you get to traverse. There seems to be some new costumes that you can unlock, like some sort of Pinhead Larry Patrick costume, as well as the Halloween SpongeBob where the brain is showing after you take off the sheet. It looks like a really cute bonus, and I'm really interested to see how this DLC, actually is in function. And like I said, I'm predicting that each DLC pack individually is going to cost about $10. And honestly, $10 for some costumes, for some new levels, and for new content, I think that's pretty good. I mean, especially if you get it bundled with the game, it's $55, so less than a full retail game, and you're getting all that DLC included. If you don't care about the collector's edition, I do recommend getting that digital deluxe edition if you want all of that bonus DLC stuff and not have to worry about paying it down the road and maybe want to save a bit of money. Overall, you guys, I am very excited for SpongeBob SquarePants Titans of the Tide, but what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments down below. I would truly love to hear what you all have to say, and if you enjoyed this video, of course, definitely drop a like and comment and subscribe, and of course, hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I upload videos, and of course, consider becoming a ZakPak member so that you can get some really cool perks, like some emotes and all of that, and the hype for Titans of the Tide is real, and I'm very, very excited for it, and I hope you guys are as well. So until next time, you guys, I will see you all in the next video.